starting before the Revolution, conflict between the Europeans and the Native Americans continued until long after. The American Revolution was primarily fought for freedom, and also helped influence the French Revolution soon after. America was formed as a capitalist society, which led to much conflict nearly 2 centuries later. Both J.S. and Pinckney's treaties showed the new America's economic pursuits and were created to aid the new economy. This economic policy was revitalized later in the Asian market. The Louisiana Purchase highlighted the continued expansion of the new country and Jefferson's personal shift toward expansionism. This trend halted temporarily until continuing in the 1900s. The Embargo Act was the first foray into global political power made by the U.S., by which all exports were banned in order to force France and Britain to respect American rights. The Monroe Doctrine, which banned colonization in the Western Hemisphere by Europe, was another attempt to gain respect, but was mostly an empty one due to America's lack of military strength. This was later enforced, once America obtained more power. Alexis de Tocqueville was a French writer, who wrote Democracy in America, a book praising the democratic system in place in the U.S. This influenced democratic advancement much of Europe, but especially in France. Reservations, the Indian Removal Act, and the Trail of Tears all served to continue the expansion of the U.S. These also showed a continuation of the conflict between the colonists and the Native Americans. The annexation of Texas was caused by continued expansionist beliefs. The industrial economies of Britain and France depended on King Cotton in the American South. The purchase of Alaska showed a continuation in expansionist ideals. Trade with China through the open door policy showed a continuation of foreign U.S. economic interests, this time expanding to Asia. The Spanish-American War was the first major foray into imperialism by the U.S., Cuban and Filipino land being the goal. The Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine extended the principle of protecting the Americas from European colonization, but this time, unlike with the Monroe Doctrine, the U.S. had enough power to enforce it. The corollary was used as justification for the intervention in Cuba and other countries. The social gospel movement was a movement focused less on religion and more on how improved living conditions led to improved morality. Similar principles continued later in Asian Christianity. U.S. entry into World War I was largely a safety precaution triggered by the Zimmermann Note, a message from Germany to Mexico urging them to attack their northern neighbor in return for land lost decades earlier. Similarly, Pearl Harbor triggered the U.S. to join World War II, as a result of an attack that threatened the safety of American citizens. In both World Wars, America was at first isolationist and neutral, at least publicly, while still providing aid to the Allies. World War II led to the U.S. position as a global superpower, allowing participation and influence in many coming wars. Rice Christians, or those who have converted for material benefit rather than religion, partially mirrored the earlier social gospel movement. Development of nuclear weapons directly related to the Cold War, as they were the main topic being fought over. The UN, NATO, and CETO showed a further U.S. shift from isolationism to a global policing force. The Truman Doctrine showed the extent of the change from prior isolationism by providing economic aid. The Cold War was fought for the safety of not only the U.S., but the whole world, and also as a capitalist country, America was naturally in conflict with the socialist USSR. Both the Korean and Vietnamese wars were fought to hinder the slow of communism, again showcasing the conflict between capitalism and socialism. The Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba was related to the Cold War, as it was a fight against communism as well. Jim Crow laws, which allowed for segregation, were used by the USSR to reduce the amount of countries joining the US in the Cold War. 9/11 and the ensuing wars showed a shift from the U.S. as a policing force to one hunting out terrorists wherever they manifested. The terrorist attack on the World Trade Center was related to an increase in terrorist activity and of dislike with the U.S. in the Middle East.